Well, hello YouTube, and this is Greg. Thanks for stopping by to visit my channel. I wanted to have a bit of a chat about water safety and filtration options when hiking on trails. For most of my life, since I was a little guy hanging out with my grandpa on the Appalachian Trail, PCT, and running around in the woods with Boy Scouts, and later on in my college and career years, chasing big waves and 8,000 meter peaks around the world. Acquiring potable water has always been an issue. In more recent years, since the 80s, with my forays into southern Haiti with development projects, and now in the modern age with Civil Air Patrol, ground team search and rescue, water is still and has always been a major consideration and a challenge. I have observed that I've spent a lot of time sorting out how to have clean water, whether that means looking for a decent source, treating nasty water, or boiling snow in Nepal. So what I have today are the kinds of things that I typically want to do, whether I'm camping, bushcrafting, long distance hiking, and the like. Back in the day, we were on the Pacific Crest Trail, essentially a horse trail, and came up on a thoroughly nasty horse trough with water that looked like turbid, nearly opaque green Gatorade with organic stuff floating in it that was yellow and brown, and certainly biological, possibly microbial, hopefully not fecal. And I had a look in it and wrinkled my nose, and my grandpa said, "Gregory, Sean, how'd you like to stick your nose down into that and drink to your heart's content?" And I said, "No, Poppy." He said, "Why not?" I said, "Well, it looks funny and it smells bad, or it looks bad and smells funny." And back in those days, we did one of a couple of things. So you didn't have good filters like we have today. We could either pre-filter it through my Boy Scout handkerchief, we could put it in a container and boil it, or we would treat it with bleach. And on this particular day, we did all three. I took my Boy Scout kerchief, folded it multiple times over the opening of a Scout canteen. So after we scooped off all the really gross stuff that we could get off of it, we submerged the canteen down in the gross water, which got some of the particulate material out so that it looked mostly like turbid Gatorade. And then we took that and boiled it over a fire. We took that and filtered it again through another kerchief into another container that we then treated with bleach. I don't know if any of you are old enough to remember Coracedin. I used to save the bottles to play slide guitar with. But we have a bottle with a Coracedin bottle full of bleach, and stick your finger down in it and then stick it in the canteen of boiled filtered water and whoosh it around, and then let it sit for a while. And it didn't do much to improve the taste, but we figured it would kill all the crud so that whatever was in there at the very least was dead. Which brings us to the next subject of what kind of things make potable water unpotable. And there's chiefly two categories: biologicals, maybe three: non-biological particles, and chemicals, petrochemicals and heavy metals and the like. In the biological particles, we have the Monaran species and protospecies. Protospecies include, but are certainly not limited to, Euglena, Paramecium, Giardia, Cryptosporidium, amoeba. These are the parasites that range from 4 or 5 microns across, 8 or 10 microns long, which is neither here nor there, but it does come into play when you're talking about filtering water. Next, the Monaran species, or the bacteria, they tend to come in one of 3 or 4 general shapes and generally 2 societal arrangements, and with or without a protein sheath. So the little round ones are cocci. They range from 4 to 6 microns across. The hot dog shaped ones or rod shaped ones are the baxilla, that can be 3 or 4 microns across and 5 to 8 microns long. The spring shaped ones tend to be a little smaller. These are the spirochetes, of which I think Lyme disease is one, and the STD, which is famous as a spirochete, is syphilis. They tend to be a little smaller, 8 to 15 microns long, but 1 to 2 microns in diameter, and the spring shape may be 3 or 4 microns across. And then there are the mycobacteria that look kind of like an amoeba, don't really have a shape. We are probably not likely to come into contact with them on any of the trails that you would hike, or any of the places in 8,000 meter peaks where you'd be boiling snow. So the other categories are the non-biological, which would involve the viral species and heavy metals and pesticides. Viruses, if bacteria are measured in microns, then viral particles are measured in nanometers. They're at least a power of 10 or 2 or 3 smaller than their Monaran brethren. They're not really biological, since they don't meet the strict criteria of a living organism. They're essentially just a piece of nucleic material with a protein sheath. Most are DNA virus pieces with a protein sheath, and compared to their RNA brethren are fairly stable. The DNA viruses are a little more stable because they have a proofreading mechanism for their replication that makes it so that their mutation rate is much, much lower than the RNA viruses, one of which is the human immune deficiency virus, which starts as a piece of ribonucleic acid with a protein sheath. These do not have the proofreading mechanism that the DNA viruses do, so they mutate at an alarming rate. As a result, there will probably never ever be a vaccine for any of the retroviruses or RNA viruses. So, having gone all that length to describe sizes of these things, most of the filters on the market today that you can find will filter down to 1 micron, 0.1 micron, 0.5 microns, 0.05 microns. Those that say filter down to 0.05 microns will get all of the produce species, Giardia, Cryptosporidium, will filter out all of those particles, and most of the Monaran species, most of the bacterial particles, they will not filter something as small as viral particles. Thankfully, on the Appalachian Trail and the Pacific Crest Trail, we're very unlikely to run into viral particles. The places where I would tend to worry about those is third world countries, Port-au-Prince, Jakarta, Indonesia, Mexico City, places where there a lot of human activity and a lot of fecal material that wind up in the water. For the Olympic Games in the previous year, they had a lot of viral particles, since the ocean and bay down in Brazil was essentially an open sewer. We're likely not to frequent places that have viral particles. Howsoever, there are some filters in the modern age that will filter viruses and do a good job. They're not cheap, and you have to pay for them. But if I was going, say, to Machu Picchu again and hiking along the Inca Trail from Dead Woman's Pass up to the archaeological site at Machu Picchu, since there is so much activity with humans and down flushing from rivers up in the mountains down into the river that you walk alongside, I would probably purchase one of the newer filters. If I remember right, MSR has a brilliant new piece called the Guardian, and you may pay $350 to $400 for it, but it It is unique in that with every pump, it takes a percentage of the clean water and back flushes the filter mechanism, so it's use it and put it away. And it is also unique in it that it's the only one I've seen on the market that I think filters viral particles. None of these will filter heavy metals and organic phosphates, so you need to be careful if you're hiking near a mining site or commercial agriculture or commercial livestock. Just be more careful and choose wisely where you pick your water from. On a previous posting, I had a short conversation about my grandfather's rubric about the conditions under which water could be safely taken from the source. And you can go have a look at that. I don't think I'm technically astute enough to put a link for it in the description here, but I'll give it a shot. So give me a second, let me turn this around and I'll show you the options that I frequent for water treatment as I hang around and hike on trails and do bushcrafty stuff. Hang on. Okay, here's the short list of things I use for bushcrafting and hiking when I want clean water. This one over here is one of a set of 3 different ones that involve a stainless steel canteen with a stainless cup and a stove arrangement, and another one with a larger Nalgene bottle with a different kind of nesting cup and a different kind of stove. This one is a 10-year-old Nalgene Guyot design stainless bottle with the quintessential GSI nesting cup with the quintessential nesting stove from, of all places, and appropriately, the canteen shop. And out in the woods being bushcrafty and in southern Haiti, I've drugged this thing around quite a bit to boil water to ensure that whatever the biological particles and viral particles are at least dead and denatured by the time I'm drinking them. And some version of this is in all of my bushcrafty kits. It's in all of my car kits for my wife and I. This next one, man, I love this thing. Discovered it about a year ago before going to Haiti. It's a Sawyer water bottle with a filter inside. And let's see if I can... Sorry, should have attended to that. If you roll back to the top, the little hose part comes out that you can drink out of. Has a pretty good flow rate, can back flush with a syringe that they give you with it. I think maybe it's $30 or something. Recently I tried the filter inside as an analog to the Sawyer Mini and the Sawyer Squeeze, and found that the flow rate for it was substantially faster than either of these two. So I'll be working on a hack for using the filter out of this bottle to replace my Sawyer Squeeze hack job for my platypus bottles. These two are smart water bottles, and one of the things I love about them is that I had one of these things that lasted me the entire Appalachian Trail from the Virginia border all the way up to Maine. And it looked kind of ratty, and I probably should have thrown it away, but just as a practical experiment, I wanted to see if it would crack or fall apart, and it didn't. And the nipple here for the smart water bottle is the perfect size to back flush a Sawyer filter. And so they come in really handy. The geometry of the threads on the smaller water bottle and the large one fit exactly the Sawyer Squeeze, so in a pinch you could just collect bad water in these things and drink it right through the filter with a hose. Over here, because I'm a cheap person, when Platypus first came out with their gravity filter, man, I was in love with that thing, but I didn't want to spend 120 bucks on it. So at the REI yard sale, I got a Platypus dirty bottle and a clean bottle. I took an old hydration bladder and made some quick disconnect for it so that I could attach it to my Sawyer filter that I already had and fill it up and hang it in a tree, and 5 minutes later the clean one, clean will be filled. I can then, if I'm in a group, fill up my 4-liter MSR dromedary, or if I'm by myself, I have various versions of this with smaller bottles and the Sawyer Squeeze. There is nothing lighter than to use one of these Evernew bottles with my hydration hose hat, and it all stuffs in a little blue bag, fits in the backpack, weighs I think 10 ounces, doesn't even weigh a pound. Now these things get kind of a bad rap because the flow rate isn't as substantial as the Sawyer Squeeze, but so long as I have religiously back flushed them after every use, I've never had a problem with them. The flow rate, honestly, it's not as great as the Sawyer Squeeze, and neither of them compare to the filter that's inside this bottle, but it does a great job, and for ultralight hiking, this is the way to go. And I would probably, for an ultralight setting, use these Evernew bottles from Japan that you can get online at Amazon. It takes a couple of weeks. But these are probably the lightest weight bottles, can roll up and stick in your pack and fit in tight places when you need them to, and you can fill them up and go directly to the Sawyer mini filter. As a backup, in my water kit, I also carry chlorine dioxide tabs from Potable Aqua. The old ones, this is one I wouldn't even want to take the lid off, it's probably rotten inside. These are iodine pills by the same company. They worked back in the day, but left you with some water that decidedly tastes like iodine. As another layer of backup in my water kit, I have chlorine bleach, and just a couple of drops in with some water on the run will ensure that whatever was in there that was alive at least is probably dead when you're done with it. So, in the modern age also, I have gosh, I should have put them out here. I have a Katadyn Hiker Pro that probably weighs 1.5 pounds. I have the MSR Sweetwater, both really good filters, very utilitarian. Problematically though, they weigh over 1 pound, and in these days of Gregory being on the short side of 60, I prefer not to carry them. Howsoever, one of the filters that I think I mentioned earlier by MSR, the Guardian, costs about $400, but cleans itself as you use it and does also filter viral particles. So the next time I'm off to some third world place, trying to get my stepbrother to cave in and go do Machu Picchu again with me, we'll probably drop some cash on that MSR one and take that with us. I don't think there's any other filter on the market that'll filter viruses and clean itself like the MSR one does. So major props to MSR for continually delivering awesome products to the market. So these are the things I use when I'm hiking. If I'm in a group, I'll probably use this bigger platypus version. When I'm by myself, I use the same hack version with these smaller 1-liter bags, just because they weigh less. So thanks for stopping by. Until I see you the next time, take care.